want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Man, that's got a nice beat to it. I like that.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, if you don't know, now you know. I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity, baby.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you. And tonight is our condensed, hopefully even more concise version of expectations. I titled this one, Your Expectations Are Killing You. So we may go a little deep into it. I hope you can handle the truths.
I don't know. Most people can't handle the truth.
No.
Most people can't handle the truth.
I've heard that before.
You know what I'm saying? But, man, the reality is, man, you know, a lot of times in life, whether it be personal, professional, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, all that kind of stuff, man, a lot of times our expectations in life, man, the stuff that we set out to frame the way we receive the world has a whole lot to do with our experience in the world, man. And so that's what this whole thing boils down to, man. It's just the whole idea of how we have these expectations, man, these unrealistic expectations, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is especially nowadays, I mean, it goes both ways, guys, girls, whatever, but we get fed all of these erroneous expectations that we should have instead of having reality-based foundational expectations that it might actually lead to some kind of happiness and joy in life versus always this chasing and looking for the bigger, better deal and thinking that, you know, what's over the fence is going to be greener and better and also like that, like the grass is greener over there, but we don't actually spend the time to build where we are with what we have and be appreciative of what we have in our life. And it seems to be, it's always like, well, if this isn't working or if somehow, you know, some reason this is getting a little hard, then I need to move on because there's something better over there. But the reality of life is what's the best is what you spend time and build and to mature and grow with.
And before we continue on, of course, you can find us on madmenradio.com. You can listen to us over the air, FCC Radio, 1220 AM KLDC in the Mile High City. And, of course, on the interwebs everywhere, Facebook. You can go to YouTube and, Buzzsprout. Anywhere you get podcasts, you can find us on there and all that kind of good stuff. So, hey, if you're watching us right now live as we stream this, if you go to our Facebook page, Madmen Radio, and you comment, we can actually see it live, and JBK will make you famous because he'll click one button and you'll be right up there on the screen.
But you better make sure it's a good comment because if you're trying to spam us, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, we ain't clicking here because you a Nigerian prince, or we ain't clicking here to see your valuable assets or any of that kind of stuff, man. And hey, that being said, I got a squirrel, man. My squirrel is. Dude, it feels like it's like 5:90 o'clock, man. Just, you know, a couple days after daylight savings fall back. This is killing me, Smalls.
This sun's still up for another 30 seconds.
My expectations are like out of whack right now in terms of what it's supposed to be feeling like.
That's what happens. That's why I hope they will end this insanity of daylight savings time. We can go back to some semblance of a normal schedule. But no, they got to keep moving my clock around, moving me around, acting like I don't try to sleep at the same hours of the night. I mean, come on.
So the reality is, man, so first of all, you know, let's talk. And a lot of times, you know, we like to say this. First, ground rules, pretty much, basically everything we say is coming from our perspective, right? It's our opinion. Yes. That being said, we do find ourselves in circles of people regularly where we get like a big, broad stroke of experiences and opinions and perspectives and all that kind of stuff. Male, female, single, married, all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, everything is like, you know, it's our opinions, and our opinions, we like to tend to be pretty sure that if nothing else, is 51 out of 100% odds are, you know, what we're saying is accurately correct. And of course, you know, man, I get tired of the phrase, it goes both ways, but whatever. So we understand if we're speaking 4 men, meaning 2 women, then yeah, it goes both ways. You know, men do too, and vice versa. If we're speaking 2 men, then yeah, we get it in terms of the women's side of things, whatever. But so anyhow, throw all that out there. So talking about the single side of things, man,
Yeah.
How people enter and how people relate in the singles world, man, makes all the difference in terms of what their perspective is, what their understanding is, what their expectation is going into the singles and dating market as to who they are versus who they are looking for, who they think they're looking for.
Yeah, and we just see so much that there's just this list of expectations, and most of them aren't really what's really important in relationships. Like these expectations, these outer expectations of looks and income and height and all these different things that we keep seeing, and these are things that people keep chasing. And I see it quite a bit. We talked to a lot of ladies in the singles market, and we're going to talk to ladies for a minute here, and they're struggling finding good men now. Maybe they're their middle years, maybe they're single mothers, whatever, and they're struggling to find long-term relationships with guys, but they're still looking at themselves at the same sexual marketplace values as in their 20s, or they
Yeah.
still think that before they were married and had kids that they're still able to get the same kind of dude. And then they still have that laundry list of expectations, like, oh well, my husband didn't have this, so this guy has to have that. My other boyfriend didn't have this, so this guy has to have that. And then they just keep adding all these little things to this list till it becomes this long, like, Santa Claus Christmas list or whatever, where there's no way any guy on earth could fulfill all those requirements. And then they wonder why they're sad and lonely all the time and can't find a guy.
Yeah. And the reality is, the female, the woman that was the 10, and we settled on this yesterday that yeah, it's arbitrary. We came out of the blue that maybe like her, like a female peak in terms of like, the marketplace value. That female peak is, let's say, 23 years old, right? 23 years old, you're young enough to be, young enough to have all the original parts under warranty, but you're old enough to be an adult and make adult decisions and all that kind of stuff, right? So it ain't creepy, but at the same time, you got, yeah. So if you are a 10 at 23 years old, then according to JBK, every 10 years you drop down 2 points on that scale. And I've been thinking about it last couple of days, last 24 hours, I guess you could say. And I would say that's probably a good assumption to make anyway. So if you were a 10 at 23, like if you were a peak, like the one that every single guy in your socio-economic space wanted, at 23, if you were a 10, body, mind, I mean, everything, if you just were all that, then by the time you're 33, the top you can max out is an 8. And by the time you're 43, then from a guy perspective, then your adjustability is from a 10 to maybe a 6 and so on and so forth. So in other words, you can't have a 23-year-old single girl mentality when you're 43, 53 years old in the singles dating market in terms of what your market value is, because it's apples and oranges.
Yeah, and especially if you're using the same criteria to rate yourself. If it's looks, if it's femininity, if it's energy, if it's all these different things, your criteria has to change as you age. And so maybe you can up that and still be in the 8, 9s or whatever, but you're using a different criteria. And I think what we tend to see is everybody's using the same criteria. Like we were even joking last night about, if you're in your 30s and 40s and you're like, because we're with ourselves every day. We don't see ourselves aging like other people see us age. We're looking in the mirror. Pull out your yearbook and then call up and then look up your friends from your high school on Facebook and see how they're doing. And that might give you at least some idea of how you're aging as well. So maybe give you a little bit of reality check, because none of us, we all feel 18 or think like we're 18 on the inside. And we look in the mirror and we're like, oh, I'm doing great. Might need a little bit of reality check so you can get your feet on solider ground when it comes to putting yourself out there in your own like actual sexual marketplace value of the world.
Because the reality is, how many of us have looked back at our high school classmates who's like, man, they look old, man, they look old as Methuselah, and you look back and, and it's kind of funny the way that tide turns, because the one that was fine back in high school, the one that was the top tier, you look at her now and she's like, ooh, she looked like witch hazel or I mean, the prom queen now looks like a drag queen, and it's, it ain't the same. And so you gotta turn that thing around and say, okay, I'm not exactly who I was. And then it's funny too, because somehow that thing works where a lot of times the kind of the nerdy looking ones or the ones that were,
Mhm.
that whatever, they age, some of them age like wine and some of them age like beer, right? I mean, and so or milk. And
Yeah.
so, it's one of them things that you got to project yourself into that. Like, yeah, I don't look like I used to either. So, so just the surface looks is not even the same, let alone all the other criteria.
Yeah, and we talk about it quite a bit, and there is the graduated scale for ladies' sexual marketplace value and men's sexual marketplace value, and they're kind of opposite. For ladies, usually it's in their mid 20s when they're the most feminine, the most gorgeous, most fit, most fertile, all those things. And then for guys, it's usually 35, 45, kind of going up there where they're usually the most successful, have the most best income, the most stable, things like that. And so when we look at these things, which I mean, the statistics are out there. Don't just get mad at us because we put it out there and you don't want to listen to it. Statistics are out there, and this is what it is. But you have to accept the fact that those are there for a reason. Just like all stereotypes are there for a reason. These things are out there for a reason because there are generalities, and at 51 out of 100 times, those are true. So you have to look at those and apply that to your life and to your expectations in dating, relationships, and life. So it's not just us saying this to you. We're trying to be helpful and save you some time so you can maybe plant some seeds and figure this out before it's too late. But as you get older, your sexual marketplace value, ladies, goes down. Guys, yours may go up. You may have more power as you go up, but then of course we talk about it as well. The guys tend to have less of guys can still date younger, so there may be some options there. But then of course there's it's a double-edged sword either way. Either you go with somebody closer to your age, they have more baggage. You go with somebody younger, but then they're less experienced and less mature, et cetera, et cetera. Probably more drama. But for all of us, it's a matter of looking at what do we really want. And I think the biggest issue is biggest issue when it comes to these expectations that are killing you. Your expectations are in the wrong criteria. You're in the wrong category. You're looking at looks, money, status, all these things for a partner. But what makes a good partner is none of those things. It's usually compassion, communication, and cooperation makes a great partner when it comes to long-term relationships.
Right. The strike zone moves, right? And the strike zone moves the older you get. And so, you 40 and 50 plus year old women thinking that the strike zone is all about the looks, which it may have been 10, 20 plus years ago, but it ain't that no more. And so you think it's about the looks and it's about the surface. So you going to get all these needles stuck in your face and all this other kind of stuff. And it's like that ain't even what it's all about. Dude that's your age is like, man, okay, that has some value. I ain't gonna say a guy don't care what you look like, but because you got a smooth forehead, and no guy ever said, look how fine she is because of how smooth her forehead is, right? No guy ever said that ever in the history of guydom. That ain't never happened, right? But at the same time, it makes you feel pretty, makes you look pretty, all that kind of stuff in terms of on the female side of the equation. But the strike zone moves, the stuff that makes you more valuable in the marketplace, in terms of what that expectation is as you enter the marketplace. You're looking for this kind of guy. Well, this kind of guy don't want a woman like that. This kind of guy don't care about how much you make. He don't care about how successful and dominant you are in your career. And he don't care about, all this other kind of stuff that you think guys care about. Well, that's mostly masculine stuff. And if I'm a masculine man, I'm not looking for a masculine woman. That would be homosexual, right? And so I'm looking for something totally different. So that expectation that you have even going into the dating space can completely reset when you understand that the strike zone changes, generally speaking, for way more than 51 out of 100 men.
Yeah, and harsh truth. So for you ladies that are going, oh, I'm in my mid 20s and I'm fit and I'm fine and I'm fertile and I'm all those things. What you also have to be, especially if you were one of those that goes, well, maybe I should get me an older man because he's more stable, he's got more money, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what you have to be is peaceful and cooperative and on his team. Basically, you got to be his biggest cheerleader. So if you have bought into the narrative that he's got to be all this stuff and you don't have to bring anything to the table, I'm sorry, Felicia, bye. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
He's not going to take that because you may have all those physical attributes and youth and beauty and all those things. But if you're not bringing peace and compassion and companionship on a even scale, on an even level, like you guys are walking side by side, he's not dragging you down or whatever on the cart pulling you along, he's not going to want you. It's just not going to happen.
And you know, and fellas, when you're out there in your, you know, singles expectation journey and all that kind of stuff, again, same thing. You got to understand that, you know, the most desirable, quote unquote, women are the ones that are out there, the arm candy and all that kind of stuff. Man, if you don't have nothing to offer, like if you can't make her life easier, if she can't come into your story, I mean, if you don't have, you know, your poop in a group, if you don't have all your stuff established, you know, your all the things in life, you know, career, your wealth, your property, your, you know, your ride, your whatever, if you don't have all that kind of stuff established, then, you know, then you shouldn't be going for that top tier. You shouldn't be going for that one. So anyhow, hey, reset, Mad Men of Masculinity, Mad Men of Masculinity, madmenradio.com. Man, you can find us on KLDC. We love to hear your comments, your feedback, whether you agree or disagree. Shoot, even the people that help us make this show disagree with us sometimes in the background,
all the time.
but we are okay with that. We want to hear your comments and stuff like that. So we're talking about just the expectations, man, and that's on the single side. But what about when you in a relationship, man? What about the expectations in?
Well, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, guys, and I'm gonna even throw this out to the ladies too. Stop going after 9s and 10s. You want a 6, 7, or 8 because they're going to be much more faithful. They're going to be much more loving. They're going to be much more compassionate. You have much less to worry about because, you know, they're still going to be attractive. They're still going to be good looking, but they're not going to be the one that every dude is chasing, trying to pull off. Like, you know, they're all the dudes are trying to get them, take their turn and snatch them. Like it's hide the flag or flag football or something. They're trying to snatch that flag off you. So I'm just telling you, for relationship, long-term relationship purposes, 6, 7s, or 8s. You know, if you need somebody that looks great and you need something like that, that's fine. But then that comes with, you know, extra costs. That comes with extra liabilities and things like that. Yeah. So, because when it comes to relationships, the things that we tend to look for while we're in the dating market aren't the things that actually create long-term great relationships. What creates long-term great relationships are compassion, communication, cooperation, and working together as a team. And number one, working through problems. That's where the compassion and communication comes through. When you have issues and you have arguments and you have these things that nowadays seems to be the death nail for relationships, those are actually the things that can become the glue and the cement that makes a solid foundation for your relationship. But if you're only looking at those superficial outer things, thinking, oh, well, he's got a dad bod now, little belly, and he's doesn't have the 6-pack, and I just don't have the butterfly, so I'm going to go find me a Chad that does. Well, that Chad may pound, but he's not going to stay. So look at what actually makes a good relationship. What are the criteria that make a good relationship?
Yeah, the fireworks go boom, and they're entertainment, and we do that, you know, once, maybe twice a year kind of thing. The fireworks are great, but campfires are what you should be looking for in terms of your expectation. Can I build a campfire with this person? Can I build something that will create heat and that will provide safety and we can cook on this thing? You know, you can't cook on fireworks. It don't work that way, you know, unless they hit the ground and the grass catch on fire. But But you know, the expectation that you should have is being with somebody that you can create a campfire with. And then when you find that person, your expectation when you wake up every day should be an expectation for you, not an expectation for them. We live in a me-centric culture. I want the world to serve me. I need me. Social media, right? I mean, soothe me, serve me, you know, feed me, you know, listen to me, hear me, sympathize with me, all that kind of stuff. And so when we wake up in the morning, our we should be more focused, our me should be more focused on we than me. How can I serve this person? That's my expectation. Not what am I going to get from this person today that's going to serve and somehow meet my needs. When two people meet each other's needs, then we is greater than me.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we either aren't taught or we don't think about, but it's almost so common sense. It should be just right up in your face. But you know you found the right person when you found somebody that you want to serve and they want to serve you. There's the mutual respect and mutual love. There's all those things that make you a great partnership because you are looking at it as a partnership and as what can we do? How can we change the world? How can we make this a better place? But when you're just looking at what can I get, that, yeah, when you're young, I'm sure that's much easier to do. You're like, oh, I can get this guy, get that guy, I can get this free dinner, I can get this bag, I can get this trip or whatever. But you're not learning any valuable life lessons to make you more valuable as you get older. And it really comes down to service. So you get up in the morning thinking, how's the world going to serve me? You're already on the wrong foot. Get up in the morning and say, how can I serve the world? How can I make the world a better place? And by doing that, you make yourself more valuable. You make yourself uh, more self-worth. You build your self-worth, you build your self-respect, and then that will attract those partners that are of higher value. You will get
Yeah.
to the ones, and not even like higher value as in 6 foot tall, six figures, higher value as in good heart, good compassion, good communicator, somebody who can actually be a good partner for you in the long
And so guys got to get out. You got to get out of mom's basement. I mean, it
run.
is what it is. I mean, even if you live with mom, I mean, if you supporting mom or whatever, there's a whole lot of, pro athletes that got mom living in her wing of the house. And,
Yeah.
so that ain't necessarily a bad thing, but if you still at the bosom of your mom, you ain't ready for a woman. You still need a mommy. Right. And so from a guy
Mhm.
perspective, okay, my expectation for me is to get out there and create something as opposed to staying in here and consuming something, right? And then when you get into the relationship space, that very first interaction, those very first dates or the whatever, you should be coming into it with, I'm going to look for opportunities to serve this person today, tonight, whether it's, wiping a little something off the corner of their mouth or opening the door for them or paying for a meal or complimenting them or whatever. And then it should be almost okay, if this thing is mutual, if it's naturally mutual, then this is something we can build off of. But otherwise, you can expect for that other person to wake up every morning expecting you to make them happy, expecting you to meet all of their needs and all that other kind of stuff. When in reality, it should be a flow. It shouldn't be damned because it's one way and it stopped. The relationship should be a flow. And so my expectation on a relationship perspective should be when I roll over, how do I serve this person? And then when I leave the house, how do I make the world a better place? Because to your point, when I make the world a better place, then I am co-creating a world of X, Y, and Z, and that is the
Mhm.
foundation of your purpose.
Yeah, and if you are still in the dating market or you're looking to get to that, find a relationship or whatever, one way to find out if this is somebody you might want to take those steps with is as you're dating, as you're going out on those dates and like that, serve them and then see how they reciprocate. If they
Mhm.
reciprocate at all, if they don't reciprocate at all, and then take that at face value. Don't listen just what they say, see what they do. So if you serve them and then you just take that and ask for some more, might not be your boo. That just might be
Yeah.
another black hole you're feeding. So use this as a way to tell who a good person is that you want to build a life with because everybody's got the game. They say all the right things. They might dress the right way, put on the makeup, do all the things so that you think that this is somebody that you want to build with. And then guys, we've talked about before, keep your foundation. Be careful of the fantasies. Don't gaslight yourself because you think she's the one and she checks all the boxes. And then you finally get to meet her, get out there, start going on dates, and you're like, oh wait, it's not there. It's something's
Mhm.
off here. So make sure you're staying with your foundation. Keep your guys around to keep you in check, and go out there in the mindset of service. You go out there to serve her like you would if she was your partner or your wife, but see
Mhm.
what she does in return. And women,
Yeah.
same thing. You go out there with this guy. And you're there to serve him. And if he's not reciprocating and treating you like his queen and his princess or whatever, then there's really not much that you're going to build on. It's lopsided and it's not balanced.
Yeah, what I've heard a lot, I've heard this from women more so than men, but the whole phrase of, especially when you talk about respecting a guy,
Mm.
or even the idea of submission, which mutual submission is the most powerful display of relationship that there is in any kind of
Yes,
context. How
sir.
can I serve you? How can I serve you in any kind of way, in business and friendship, in romantic, in heart, whatever, mutual submission. And so I've heard the whole idea of the concept of submission from this idea of submission from women. When I find a man that's worthy of it, then I'll do it.
Mm.
Well, you know that doesn't play out in reality because that bar will keep moving, that goal line, that finish line will keep moving, and that person will never be enough kind of thing. And so if you don't come in with a heart of that, with a heart of submission, then you shouldn't be there in the first place. But if you do, and you find the mutuality in that whole experience, then that's what it comes down to. And from a guy perspective, man, like it's the equivalent of for a woman to say like, I'll respect a guy when he proves himself respectable, and that being acceptable to say. It's like, okay, but how acceptable would it be to say for a man, I love you when you prove you're so lovable? But right
Mhm.
now you're unlovable, so I'm not going to love you. No, you want that to be just who he is. And so those kind of things should exist in the context of a relationship where in any kind of way where you are there to build each other up and to serve one another and to help make your mutual sphere, better, wholer, and more complete, like the yin and the yang.
Yeah, I mean, when you kind of get into a relationship, you both need to be in service of the relationship. There's a great analogy of there's Jack and there's Jill, and they come in with the Jack and Jill energy, but then when they come together, there's Jack Jill energy, which is like the relationship energy, and that's what you're both in service to because that's the bigger thing that you're building. And if you're not in service to that, if you're not in service to each other to help create the foundation of that relationship, help create the foundation of who you are and what you're both bringing to the world and to the table and for your family, for your kids, for all those things. If one of you is, well, what's in it for me? Now you're a flat tire. Now you're a detriment to the rest of the relationship. And that's why we say being of service, being submissive to the relationship, to your partner, being submissive to what you are building as the bigger, better thing in the world. And for guys, especially, be careful who you are submissive to, because when you put all that energy in there and you put all that time and effort in there, if she's not being submissive and reciprocating as well, then that's one half of your house is falling down already. So make
Yeah.
sure as you're getting in there, and sometimes it's just a matter of being as open and honest up front as you can be, like, this is what I want to build. Are you on board with that? And if they say yes, then watch their actions. Make sure that their actions correlate with their words, because
Yeah.
it's up to you, it's up to us to build these relationships and these families and these communities together. And we all need to be in service and of service to those things and be submissive to the bigger picture of what we're building. But if we've got a couple of knuckleheads that are just all about themselves, well, let them go be all about themselves outside over there.
Yeah. You know, the word samurai means one who serves. So, I don't want to hear you being a warrior. I don't want to hear you being a soldier if you're not there as a servant in that soldierhood and soldierdom or whatever it is. You know, a lot of people can get somebody, but not a lot of people can keep somebody. And some of that comes down to your expectation mindset on who you seek, your picker. But then some
Mhm.
of that also comes down to the person that you pick, how you show up in that relationship as well. And again, getting somebody to these days, man, you can just swipe on an app and get somebody if you wanted,
Yep.
a little something, something, a
Yeah, you want to
little,
keep it surface and casual?
you know what I'm
Fine.
saying?
Everybody wants to keep it surface and casual nowadays. Nobody wants
You
real.
you know, you want to put a little ketchup on your hot dog, you can find that, but whatever that means, I have no idea what that means, but it just maybe I'm hungry right now. But
You just want a little
but if
extra condiments?
if that's what you want, but talk about a meal, there's a difference in a
Mhm.
microwave and a crock pot, right? And so how we show up in the day, whether it be professional, relational, emotional, like I said, even spiritual, and what your
Yeah.
expectations are in those kind of ways, really sets your foundation for your understanding and the faith that you have in that thing, into in the role that you have in your life. And I'll leave mine at that.
Yeah. Well, and even to that analogy, we tend to have a fast food mentality nowadays, and you need to have not even just a meal mentality. You need to have a farm and a ranch mentality. You like,
Mm,
what are you building? How are you
mm,
creating for the next generation? It's not just about your next meal. It's not just about the next thing you're getting. This fast food mentality of swiping and, oh, my next little microwave dinner. Well, that's not very filling. It's not very nutritious. But if you're thinking about laying out the farm, laying out your plantation, your home, and where you're going to raise your family and your kids, and you have that depth of vision in your relationships, now you're building a foundation that you can build on, that you can create something that's successful and long lasting for generations. But if you
yeah.
got the fast food mentality, well, good luck and enjoy diabetes, because that's all you're gonna get.
Well, there's a lot more DoorDash drivers than farmers in our country, right? And and maybe we need to have more of a farming mentality than a DoorDash mentality in terms of how we look at our expectation of the day. You know, am I willing to put in the work? Am I willing to look long term? Is that my expectation, or is my expectation hit a few buttons on an app and exactly what I want, what I order shows up? So good stuff, JBK.
Love it. I love y'all. We want you to come and join us on Mad Men Radio. Come and join us on KLDC, 1220 a.m., Saturdays at 8 and Wednesdays at 6. You can also go on 1220kldc.com and listen to us, stream us live. You can go to YouTube, to Mad Men of Masculinity on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell button so you get notified when we're coming up again. And then holler at your boys. Tell us what you want us to talk about. If you need some boy medicine, you need some of that man wisdom, holler at both of us. We can help you out. We do some coaching. We're here for you. Make sure you check out Spotify, check out our channel, check out the Dadvocates. Our last not interview, but our last podcast with Jude Sandval from the Dadvocates is on Spotify on his channel. So we're everywhere now.
Boom.
So we love y'all. What you got to say, man?
I ain't got to say nothing but Mad Men
out. Peace. We love y'all.